Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to episode 156 of the Falcoholic Live. I am your host, Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter, joined by some great co-hosts and a very special guest this evening. That special guest is Chuck Smith, former All-Pro pass rusher of the Falcons and self-proclaimed Dr. Rush pass rush specialist coach, Chuck Smith. Yeah, that's a mouthful, but Chuck, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fabulous, man. So don't I get the nickname too, like you guys? Falcoholic Chuck. Come on, man.
Yeah, we can set it up. Yeah.
I'm Falcoholic Chuck. When I'm with you guys, I'm Falcoholic Chuck, man.
All right, I'll make sure to edit the nameplate for next time to give you Falcoholic Chuck.
Please do.
But yeah, how you doing tonight, Chuck?
I'm doing really good. It's been a good day training in the lab. There are a lot of guys right now, as many guys that we know that are getting ready for game one. There are also guys that got cut. So right now I got a gang in about 25 NFL free agents that are D linemen, linebackers that I'm preparing to get the call. So, they still got to be tuned up. So there are a lot of guys that got cut and they're training right now. So it's a busy time still.
Yeah, I imagine so. This is definitely, probably, I don't know if guys come to you during the season as much, but I know like in the off season and even up until now, the end of training camp, you got a lot of guys you're working with. So, yeah.
So, it's busy year round. As I just said, I got 25 guys in the gym. It's rare I'd have 25 guys in the summer. So you got to remember how many guys got cut, in the NFL that are just D linemen. So you got those guys, you got guys from the CFL, you got guys that are getting ready for the XFL. You got arena guys that are training. So football's got different levels to it, pass rush training, but we only always get a chance to talk about the NFL. So, it really don't stop, man. It's consulting, it's training, it's development, it's editing videos, it's stacking a board. It's also doing scouting of college and high school players. It's consulting college coaches. There are levels to it, man. It's a bigger business than most people truly would understand because no one ever truly asked those kind of questions. But I just gave y'all some answers.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I love the insight. Yeah, for sure. And we'll definitely get into more of that stuff. Want to welcome everybody else in here. First of all, we have the man responsible for our wonderful guest this evening. He is Director of Guest Personnel, Evan Birchfield at Evan Birchfield on Twitter. Evan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thankful for Chuck Smith, obviously coming on our show. Last episode, one of our viewers, Jason Gaines, a lot of people were requesting to try and get some former players to come on, and Chuck Smith's name came up a lot, and Jason was the one that really got that going. So I was like, well, let's see if Chuck Smith will come on, and he's here, so get those questions ready.
Yep, ask and you shall receive. Exactly. So we also got with us the man himself at the Falcoholic, Dave Choate. Dave, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great. Really excited, as I was saying right before we started here, to actually be talking about a football game. And it feels like it's been a couple of years since we saw one, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it is. It's been a while, and it's nice to have actual football on the schedule tomorrow night, even if it's not the Falcons. And then, of course, we have the Falcons to look forward to on Sunday. Next up, we have Adnan Ikic. Adnan is at Say Which Way on Twitter. Adnan, how are you this evening?
I'm doing very well. We've eaten our vegetables. That was the preseason, and now it's time for the main course.
Yes,
so to
exactly.
Speak. So,
I
definitely
prime
can't wait.
steak. Yes. Exactly. I'm excited as well, brother. And we also have, finally, a surprise entrant. Once again, we have Eric Robinson taking a break from his busy ESPN schedule. He is at _Eric_Robinson. Eric, how are you tonight? Eric, my brother. Hello.
Eric? We have to do that every time, Kevin?
Yeah, I do. I'm contractually obligated. Dave made me do it, so yeah.
I'm just glad to have Chuck on the show tonight. I really want to pick his brain a little bit as far as just being the pass rushing teacher that he is, the pass rushing guru that he is, and this has definitely been something that's been a thorn in the side for the Falcons over the past several years. So
yes,
glad to have you on tonight, Chuck.
2 decades.
It's good to be here, Eric. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get right into it with the Falcons going up against the Eagles in week 1. Chuck, I know you said you have a plan an idea for how the Falcons might be able to take down the Eagles this year. Obviously, Philly's offense last year, not what we had been used to seeing from them. You know, Carson Wentz was a little bit hurt, a little bit struggled, and then we saw Jalen Hurts towards the end of the year really take control of that offense. And meanwhile, the defense, still a great pass rush, overall not as dominant as they had been in the past. So what are your thoughts on how the Falcons can sort of take advantage of those matchups in this game?
Well, I think the Falcons, first and foremost, they got to try to, number one, establish the run. Let me tell you why. And everybody keeps saying, well, the Eagles got Fletcher Cox, they got Brandon Graham, they got Josh Sweat, they got Derek Barnett, they got Jannard Avery at linebacker. They even got old man Ryan Kerrigan that might be coming off the pine, old Washington Redskin. But what you got to do, and Javon Hargrave, you got to go right at Fletcher Cox and run the ball with Mike Davis. Listen, the Falcons aren't going to throw the ball for 350, 400 yards. All right, the Eagles, they're solid. You got Slay at cornerback. They're solid. But my thing is this, on the second level, as far as the linebackers, when you get through Fletcher and those guys, listen, those linebackers last year as a group, they were, I think, the second worst tackling group in the NFL. Got to run the ball with Davis, and then you set up the opportunities to see what Kyle Pitts can do on that second level, you know, because the Eagles have had some injuries at safety during training camp. So I think the Falcons, as much as people don't think it can happen with this young offensive line, with some of the guys that have been added in, I think that is the only way. They got to hammer and then try to throw the ball to Pitts, get Ridley in the game, try to throw Gage in there. And I'm going to tell you another one that's a sleeper, Hurst. You got to have two tight ends, get some of that in there, run the ball, play action pass. That is the recipe for the Falcons. But if they end up throwing the ball 40 times, guys, that's not the kind of day we want. We want to see we want to become the Titans with slow play it like Coach Smith did in Tennessee, hit them in the mouth. Let's let them big hippos, man, get up there and, you know, do some root hogging and stuff and get after the Eagles defensive line.
Yeah, I like all of that. And I think, honestly, like, everyone's worried about the offensive line, and I understand why. You know, the only guys we've actually really seen play much would be Jake Matthews. Obviously, we're pretty settled there. Chris Lindstrom's settled there. Caleb McGarry, I think, has been improving, but in terms of the other two guys, we saw Matt Hennessy get baptized by fire against Vita Vea, and, you know, that's not exactly a fair assessment of his abilities. And then now we get to see Jalen Mayfield make, you know, his NFL debut in week 1 at left guard, which I'm excited to see, but, you know, that's a lot to put on the plate for a rookie who's changing positions. But we haven't seen that line at all in the preseason. I mean, they played maybe a snap. I mean, it was barely anything. So anything could happen. They could be better than expectations. Is there a reason you think they might be better than folks sort of think, especially running the ball?
Well, I think because that's where they're going to, number one, that's going to be their bread and butter. An offensive line, when you look at young guys, the best thing for them is to get down and run block. That's one of those things that's fundamental, all about technique, and some of that has to do with leverage and being a dog. The worst case scenario, yeah, of course you get baptized by Vita Vea, but I can tell you this now, I'd rather them try to play a little more conservative, run the ball, and get after and take my chances on a also new developing Philadelphia Eagles offense and say, you know what, we're going to, you know, this isn't quite, you know, Hurts isn't exactly Aaron Rodgers. So let's play it slow, run the ball, but we got a lot better chance to run the ball than you got in putting those guys back there in pass protection. Because let me give you a quick story real quick. I always remember this. Mm-hmm. I remember I was on the bench. It was my first year in the NFL. Bob Whitfield started his rookie year. I think it was the third game. We played the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football. We're a run and shoot team. That ain't a good recipe when you got Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green on the other side, Levon Kirkland in the middle, and I think Chad Brown. So the point was we went out there and threw the ball, I don't know, and Bob gave up 3 sacks. We make jokes about it all the time. He got baptized too. But he ends up, you know, making a Pro Bowl with the Falcons. And the point being, I always learned from him and some of those guys back in the day, they want to get down, they want to establish a physical presence. So the guys that we're talking about on the Falcons offensive line, Lindstrom, McGarry, any of those guys, Hennessy, Matthews, we have a better opportunity, better shot of run blocking and being physical than those guys having to kick back. Because, I mean, if you guys, you want me to tell you somebody that you're going to know after this game and the rest of the season? When you see Josh Sweat from the Philadelphia Eagles, who is basically John Abraham 2.0, I'm telling you, kid is incredible. Derek Barnett right now is incredible. So when you see these guys, the last thing you want is to have Jake Matthews or particularly McGarry trying to drop back, kick back 6 yards. So I'd rather them start out and try to establish the run. Let's slow the game down. Let's say that, hey, our defense is good enough to stop Hurts. They got Smith. They got a phenomenal offensive old school line. So I just think you got to pick your poison. I'd rather than be beating up on Mike Davis than Matt Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. And you raise an excellent point there because the Eagles last year, we only have last year's stats to go off of, so that's just what I'm going to quote here. It's going to be different this year, obviously. But, the Eagles' second in pressure rate on defense in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback, that was always their biggest strength. And it did translate into a pretty good pass defense in terms of yards per game. They're 15th in passing yards per game. Against the run, however, they were just 23rd in stopping the run. And you could tell because they invested a lot in the pass rush, the run defense wasn't quite as good. So I think you really might be onto something there to attack that weakness on defense and trying to keep, the Eagles pass rushers from being able to pin their ears back, if the Falcons get into third and long and stuff like that. So definitely agree with you there. Let's switch over to the defensive side with the Falcons. Obviously, a totally new look here with Dean Pease. Maybe not a giant difference from how Raheem Morris ran things at the very end of his tenure here, but definitely going to be some more exotic blitz packages, probably more aggressive in terms of sending pressure. What are you really looking for from this first sort of time we're going to get to see the first string defense? What are you hoping to see from Dean Pease in this game?
Well, I'm looking to see how the substitution pattern works, because this is a team that's going to be put together by nuts and bolts, man. And we have to look at the facts that we have in our front. We have guys that are what I call spare tires, man. Guys that you put a spare tire on, and we got to have them until we can get a new tire, and that we can't do it overnight. So when you look at like some of the things that happened this year, the Falcons, they were handicapped. They were handicapped by some of the challenges there. So what that also does to a guy like Grady Jarrett, I can already tell you, and I love me some Grady. That's my guy. I worked with him. We family for years.
Yeah. They're
going to put two guys on him. What ends up happening when they can block everybody else one-on-one, and they're going to have to move Grady around a lot. That's the biggest person we're going to see multiple front. But I think this Falcons defense, I need to see the rotation. I need to see if Comiskey can jump in, Davidson. So the guys in the front line, we need to see who are going to be our guys week 4. Because I'm one of those people, when you get when the bullets start flying, we have to have, with the kind of guys we have, we got to have a unit that plays, 8, 7, whatever it is, 6, 7 guys in a rotation that can, do it all. So that's kind of one of the first things I'm looking at, the substitution pattern, who's in what personnel groups, who's, what and who's in what package. Is Comiskey going to be inside on third downs? Is Marlon coming in? You know what I'm saying? Do they put Dante Fowler? Where does he line up? How much does Deion Jones come? And, when you got all those smoke and mirrors. So that's one of the first thing is how we use this personnel, because it looks like in the 2 deep, a lot of guys are going to have to play and be in substitutional, rotational players.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I think one of the biggest criticisms I had of the previous staff was that they didn't play the matchups enough, in my opinion. We did run out the same guys. They did have different packages, but I didn't see them targeting specific offensive linemen or specific matchups in the passing game or that sort of thing. So I think with Dean Pease and Arthur Smith, they've made it abundantly clear, like, we've acquired these players to do specific things. Like, we want this guy matched up on this guy, and we're going to play 12 personnel when we know the opposing team's linebackers can't keep up with our tight ends, that sort of thing. So I'm also looking forward to see how these guys are deployed. But one player in particular I think a lot of fans are really excited about is the rookie edge rusher, Ade Ogundiji. Have you seen anything from him so far? Are you excited to see what he can do in this defense in his first year with the team?
Well, I'm always excited to see someone who has an opportunity. This kid Ogundiji, he has an opportunity to come to a team that needs the most important skill outside of being a quarterback that can throw the ball, and that's being a pass rusher. He has an opportunity, and he's going to get his shot, but he's athletic. He's aggressive. He's shown the ability to bend on the corner. He's shown great flexibility. And I just think what a great opportunity, because we've seen this story before. The guy on the other side, like in Fowler, all these expectations, got lots of money. And there's that one guy that, comes in and his expectations aren't quite as high as, in the beginning, but he puts in the work and now he has an opportunity. I'm definitely excited because I'm always pulling for, you don't have to be a high draft pick to be a great pass rusher. You just got to use your moves and understand when, why, and how, but also have a lot of confidence. And you got to be fearless as a pass rusher because you're going to have games where you win. You'll have 4 or 5 games. You might not get a sack. It's those guys that are mentally tough enough to go 5 games to have a great game on that 6, to go 5 games without, and on the 6th game, get back and become productive.
Yeah, and that you raise an excellent point about pass rushing, and you might have a good pass rushing season. A lot of people, arbitrarily sort of say, 10 sacks means you had a good season. And that's not necessarily fair. But as an example, right, you're going to be rushing a quarterback, 40, 50, 60, maybe even more snaps in a game. And you might have 10 sacks on a whole season. So the sack is just one tiny part of the whole package, which is why I'm really appreciative that people are starting to look more at overall pressure rate, because I think that's far more reliable in terms of evaluating pass rushers. It's, pressure rate tends to stay more similar year over year, where sacks go up and down. There's a lot that goes into whether a play turns into a sack or a throwaway or a QB hit or whatever. So definitely agree that, pass rushers people need to respect not just looking at sacks when we're talking about pass rushers, because that's not the only stat that matters out there. But definitely want to, we have a couple questions from audience here. Well, not really questions, more of a comment from Jason Gaines. So he says, Chuck, I'll never forget you on NFL Network's Greatest Games episode, specifically talking about the 98 NFC Championship. When you said about Vikings kicker Gary Anderson, you effed up, Gary. You effing blew history, Gary. And then, Corey Carter with a similar statement here. You choked, Gary. You blew it. So a lot of love for that. Right. Yeah.
The winners get to say what they want. So when you go back and look, I'm talking about Robert Smith, all of them, Chris Carter. But when you're the winner, you kind of get the mic in the end, and they turn the show off. So we turned the show off. So that's how we really did say that. We kind of taunted him big time. Me and Shane Jeanette, man, he rest in peace. Travis Hall wasn't a talker, nor was Lester. They super nice guys. But we did kind of, them dudes were so. If you would have been there and seen how mean, nasty, arrogant, because remember, they're 15-1. There's so many storylines behind that people really don't know about. Those dudes was really disrespectful and ill, and the fans and the whole culture there was, when you get done, you just wanted to be like, I told you so. So that's kind of how it was. But I digress. So
we had Morton Anderson on the show last week, and he said how he saw the banners that the Vikings had all prepared for after they won that game, and how that was like an added drive and added motivation for him after he saw that.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a big beast. Real quick, let me say something real quick. It's interesting you talk about more. History is written to the winners. So think about this. Before that game, Gary Anderson was considered a Hall of Famer. Actually, some people considered him to be a better kicker than Morton. One guy misses.
Yep.
And, I don't wish any negative on anybody, but it's well documented he went in depression and had issues and ended up moving to the countryside. And the other guy becomes a Hall of Famer, becomes a legend. And so it's interesting in that whole Dirty Bird story. There's so many little storylines like that no one really truly talk about, but it's like the agony, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. You're going to have 2 different sides to it.
It's amazing how football can tell a story that way, because Gary he didn't miss a field goal all year. And it's the one field goal that he missed that cost his team from realizing history. Real quick, Chuck, one question I have for you, and if you follow Chuck enough on Twitter, you'll see the animation that he brings to the table when it comes to being a pass rusher, when it comes to being a defender. For those who are not familiar, let those people know, what kind of mindset do you have to get after the quarterback on a regular basis? Because it's a different type of mentality, especially in today's game. And you mentioned it. You said that this is arguably the second most important position on the field besides being a quarterback. So what type of mindset do you have to bring to the field or to the table in order to chase the quarterback for 4 quarters?
Number one, you got to be aggressive. You got to be a dog. And that's a term that we use in the locker room, and people now use outside the locker room. You got to be a dog. Listen, as a pass rusher, you got to be willing to hit someone so hard you're willing to knock yourself out to get to the quarterback. That's a different kind of animal. Everybody ain't built like that. Grady built like that. I'm built like that. The late, great Chris Dolman built like that. John Abraham built like that. You know what I'm saying? But then when you look at guys, you know, Vic Beasley ain't built like that. Tack ain't built like that. Deidre Sinat ain't built like that. So when you look at the history and look at some of the guys that are there and all these draft picks, they ain't built like that. Because let me give you a good example. Third rounders. Max Crosby is built like that out with the Raiders. You know what I'm saying? Von Miller is built like that. So think of all these guys I'm naming. I'm gonna give you another one that's built like that. Cam Jordan. I know, listen, Falcon fans, he's not on our team.
That's okay. I can respect his.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. And listen, I'm just telling you, you want to talk about a beast? I'm talking about built like, I mean, he's on another level of a dog. Let me tell you a scary story, though. Some funny stuff real quick since we talking about pass rushers. So we're at the Von Miller Pass Rush Summit in Vegas, the first one, right? So how it works, we're all in all these top NFL pass rushers in like an auditorium. Every pass rusher gets the clicker. Well, you know, they're just describing what's going on there and the whole nine. And so, you know, Yannick Ngakoue goes up. Aaron Donald goes up. Vaughn goes up. You know, just all these different pass rushers. Melvin Ingram, you know, Tuitt, TJ, well, you know. So now he gets to go up, right? So he's representing the Saints and he's got the clicker and, you know, so they're going through all his sacks. And so he gets to the Falcons and he was upon the record. I guess he sacked Matt Ryan. This was a couple years ago. There was a tackle. Whoever the Falcons got rid of in the last couple years, he was a good start on the other side. Who was the guy on the other side of Jake Matthews for years?
Ryan Schrader.
Yeah, Schrader.
He literally said, man, see this guy right here? I absolutely effing hate him. And guess what? Every time I go against him, I try to punk him because I know when I get into a nasty game, he breaks down and I'm going to miss him. That's a pass rusher's mentality, man. That man, even after he was gone from the Falcons, despised him. Just like with me, I absolutely despise now. I can't, to this day, my football despise. I don't like Willie Rowe. I absolutely should try to listen. This is Orlando Pace. I used to try to split his wig, and I used to whoop his tail. I used to get after Tony Baselli, all of them, and they can't deny it. But I ain't gonna say they didn't get after me too. But we had our boxing matches. You understand what I'm saying? Like Kerry Collins, like some of those guys, man. Like I absolutely tried to hurt Kerry Collins. I couldn't say it back then. Hell yeah, I tried to go for his legs, man. So that was one of the reasons. So the kind of pass rusher I was. And a lot of it had to do because people didn't give Atlanta respect. So we had to go out there. I did whatever it took. And I was willing to get a fine. I was willing to talk trash. I was willing to do the things it took. And that added a different dimension. Because when guys, listen to this, when you're a pass rusher and people fear you because you ain't afraid to hurt yourself, that's a different kind of fear that even NFL players have because that's how I played.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it really is when you're going up against someone, you're colliding every single play.
Yeah.
Like that's something that the viewers at home don't really like see because, you know, if a sack doesn't happen, you're not really looking unless you're really trying to like look at the battles between the O lineman and the defensive lineman. But you're just going at it like every single time. Every time there's contact.
Well, we got to remember now, we're just talking about pass rush. I used to beast cats on the run too. Now I did everything. So now I'm, you know, I think at one time, I had 13 fumble recoveries in my career. At one time was number one. I was one time number two or number one as Falcons that was ever drafted. So at the end of the day on the run, it's the same thing. So if a guy comes to trap me as a defensive end, I'm going to trap the trapper. So when that tackle blocks down, I'm not just going to try to wrong arm. I'm going to try the wrong eye. What we were taught back in the day, I was taught by Bill Kolar, the D-line coach at Denver. When the tackle goes down, don't just throw a blind rip. I would try to put my helmet, my forehead inside his inside eye, and I would go through his inside eye. So, nah, man, we always talk about pass rush, but the guys who played in my era who understand, you know, what I did. And look, I'm a 5-time Pro Bowl alternate, man. I didn't make one, but
made an All-Pro, but not the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. But if I played now, I probably made 6-7 Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
But eras are defined. Pro Bowl opportunities are really defined by the people in your era. Hey, man, Reggie White, I ain't going over Reggie Chris Dolman, I ain't going over Chris. Charles Haley, I ain't going over him. Michael Strahan, I'm not going over him. So in my era, man, I was probably 5th and 6th best. But in this era right here, I'd be one of the best. But so that's the reason why people don't even. So when we talk about where I fit in Falcons history, people don't talk about that, but they talk about that with other people. Every guy that's in front of me, that the reason, if you go look at every Pro Bowl, pretty much everyone before me, the guys that went to the Pro Bowl are NFL Hall of Famers and icons of D-line and pass rush. So I just came in the wrong era.
You only had Reggie White and Bruce Smith and Derek Thomas in your way. Like, I mean, it's outside of that. I mean, not much.
I ain't complaining though. I had a great career, man. I had a great career, but I did have some obstacles. But there are some things that affect you. And then think about it from my standpoint when you're looking at Falcon history. Jesse Tuggle made 5 Pro Bowls, right? I was there when he made his first Pro Bowl. When Jerry Glanville came and said, Jesse, you made it. Everyone, Jesse went crazy and, gave his traditional woo. So, but Jesse was a 5-time Pro Bowl alternate. So if Jesse Tuggle plays not in Atlanta, he's not going to be, if he plays in Dallas, he's not going to be a 5-time alternate. Yeah. Jesse Tuggle had an opportunity to make 10 Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
But again, so Jesse Tuggle truthfully should be on the Hall of Fame ballot.
Yeah,
but
I agree. Yeah.
But that's another story for another day. So when you go to Atlanta, sometimes, on draft day, sometimes you go to Atlanta in an era where you're not really that good, and then sometimes some guys got to go in that era to Frisco. So if I go to Frisco, I'm an elephant pass rusher with Steve Young and Jerry Rice, and so destiny is sometimes dictated by your draft, where you get drafted to.
And I was going to say, it's not just your guys there. It's throughout all of Falcon history. Like Tommy Novus not being in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
that's a travesty.
Too. Yeah,
Patrick Kearney. Even Steve Bartkowski, not that he should be in, not that I'm saying he has to be in the Hall of Fame, but people don't really look at what Bartkowski did back in the early 80s and give him that respect because he was with the Falcons.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, we were talking about the 98 NFC Championship game, and everyone remembers Morton Anderson and, the kick, and rightfully so. But you were the one that changed the entire course of that game with that sack at the end of the first half, which, set up the touchdown for the Falcons. So if you don't get that sack, there is no overtime. There is no Morton Anderson kicking it. And, I was going to ask, is that the best sack of your career? Do you have a sack or a moment that stands above the others for, above all else in your career?
I think that's it. I think that's one that at the time it was needed the most. I took a calculated risk. I knew that we were behind, and I really just jumped the count. And so I think they did a play action pass. I just took off really and bull rushed Todd Stussy and just kind of reached out. But yeah, I think that's it. But I've had a few plays, but nothing like that. I couldn't even make up a story and say that it's not, because it was my best play as far as pass rush is concerned. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the 98 season, we had another question from Corey Carter. He said, in 98, obviously, the team was 2-0 going into Candlestick. You guys, the team played a good game, narrow loss to the Niners. And for him, that seemed like the turning point in that season, kind of looking like maybe the Falcons actually will be different this year. Talk about that game. Was that sort of the turning point for you guys? Did that game where you were able to sort of stick with the Niners for the first time in a while give the team like a new confidence?
Yeah, I think it did. But I think we realized we had talent all along, because, we had a lot of good players. In the year before that, I think we had won 7 in a row or something like that towards the end of the year, or 6 out of 7 or something like that, and then came into the year really successful. But there were a lot of times we had some, good games against the Niners. But I think that was, I think so. But they beat us, but we already had a chip on our shoulders about beating those guys. So we knew, oh, no, that's not, I got to rewind. No, I tell you when we knew we were good, it was in the summer. We scrimmaged against the AFC champion Jacksonville Jaguars with Brunell, and those guys, and we beat them up. We went at it now, Like I was going against, Tony Baselli like for 3 days. That's not exactly the kind of Florida vacation you want, and Leon Searcy, they had those guys, and that's when we knew we were good. When we beat those, when we went hard and kind of beat up the Jaguars that year. Then we went into the season with 2-0, then lost to the Niners. It was a scrimmage. It was a joint practice week with the Jacksonville Jaguars because they were the previous AFC champions, or they were like one of the top teams. That was actually the time when we really realized that we were going to be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. We got one more from Jason Gaines. It's a Vic Beasley, Takk McKinley question, so tread with caution.
Yeah.
But
boy.
He just wants to know: did Vic Beasley or Takk McKinley ever make any effort to train with you? I think he says that he thinks he remembers you saying that maybe Takk worked with you at least once.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm taking credit for that.
Yeah.
No. What's funny? The real story about that man is, even in college, Vic's coach when he was in college, Marion Hobby, who played in college with me at Tennessee, they used to encourage him to come in, back when he was in college. Because I used to always want to help him, work with him.
Yeah.
In college, he was bending and spinning. I remember Vic being dynamic. And so then when he got to the pros, I didn't remember now. So this isn't, and like I try to explain a lot of times, I live here. So me soliciting a Falcon is like, you know what I mean? I'm going to restaurants. I might see Vic. I might see Takk.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's, and one of the things is, if I, I didn't really reach out to him like that. Like Grady might tell, hey, Vic, man, we're going to be in the gym, or Bud Dupree be coming like, Vic, come on through. You know what I'm saying? And so I had a different relationship because we were kind of connected with Bud and Grady, me and his relationship with his dad. And I know known Grady for a long time. So, but like one time I reached out to him. I reached out to him to talk. Hold up, my wife jumped on. Just say, hey, babe.
What's up?
Hey, what's up? But one time we actually talked one time, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna come over with Bud. And Bud would continue to train, but he never came, man. After that, then so then I started almost trying to reach him somewhat by comments through the media, try to challenge him a little bit.
Yeah.
But then again, like with Takk, my only real one time I was at Falcons camp for like 2 days, and I was kind of trying to show Takk how to do the cross chop, and it was literally in a 2-minute set, 2 minutes, and all along. So. And then it's funny, we were at like the Falcon draft or something, and Takk and was it Adrian Claiborne came through? They were like doing autographs or something. And I was on the mic with 92.9, and Takk was like, I was like, Takk, you should come through and let me teach you the cross chop like Claiborne. And he was like, man, I already got it. So that was the last thing I heard from Takk. That's literally what Takk said. I already got it. I don't need it. And then I was like, but remember again, see, one of the things with me, people always say, man, you want to be a coach? Who wouldn't? If someone came to you to try to be a coach, you'd be a coach, make a lot of money. But where I'm at now, truthfully, guys, that's a long time ago from really me wanting to be a coach, whether it's the Falcons or anybody. Because again, I live here. So think about this. Yeah. If I become a Falcons coach and we suck,
it's going to be
we
rough.
all get fired,
I
got to live here.
So
the risk ain't worth. So I'm always telling people, now I'll consult. That kind of thing, but I don't need to work for the Falcons to somewhat consult. I work with the best player. I work with, I've had Claiborne, the guys who get a lot of the single game sack record, right? I got a chance to train him, Adrian Claiborne. I trained the single game, the single Super Bowl record guy, and Grady Jarrett.
Yep. So you're behind that. Oh, okay. And look, and Adrian Claiborne broke my record in a single game. So he got 6, I got 5. So the point being, I don't really need the Falcons to work with the guys, the guys who really want to work. But, I got enough work, man. So it's hard for me to solicit the Falcons. And I'm like living like right in the neighborhood with these same dudes. So we at the pool, they're going to be like, dang, man, they go Chuck again. Damn. Real quick, I'm sure you can attest to this too, Chuck. Talent can only take you but so far in the NFL.
Yeah.
You got to have the work ethic to match that talent. That's is going to go. That's what's going to keep you in the league.
Everyone's talented. Like everyone in the NFL is talented.
Right. Yeah, you gotta bring that to the table.
And I will say, if Tack had the cross chop, he was hiding it on the field because I didn't see it the last few years.
No, he didn't use it.
Yeah, it was always there in the back pocket. He just never showed it. Yeah, he was just waiting. Yeah,
you can't run around offensive tackles nowadays, man. They're all fleet-footed, man.
Right. Let me tell y'all something about Takk McKinley. We can talk about now, but I wouldn't have disclosed when he was a Falcon. The reason why Takk McKinley got hurt so much because he had 2 reconstructed shoulders and he would bull rush. So if you ever go back and look at Takk, he bull rushed and he was always on the ground. Yeah. That's why he would always be hurt. So what he really needed to do was use finesse moves. But it's a mindset. You know how you got some boxers that as soon as they get in the ring, they dance. I mean, they train they train for the fight when they're dancing, right? Moving around. Then as soon as they get in the fight, what do? They start throwing. Getting close up, start throwing the slugfest. Instead of Takk, that's what kind of pass rusher he was. But when you start doing stuff like that and you got injured shoulders, that's why he was always hurt, because he would always use power. And when he bull, he'd always be getting pushed to the ground. And he would every time he hit the ground. If you go look at when he got injured, he was always bull rushing.
That's how he hurt his shoulder in college. He fell awkwardly on the shoulders at the bull rush, and same thing happened when he had the injury against the Panthers a couple years ago. And to back you there, Chuck Smith, Ali wasn't the greatest boxer ever because of his hands, because of his feet.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I love it. Love the insight. Yeah. Chuck, I don't know how much longer you got. If you guys have any more questions for him or.
Yep, or I'm going to go upstairs and watch 90 Day Fiancé, man. My wife is waiting for me.
Yeah, guilty pleasures.
Anybody seen that yet? Or
I haven't seen
Love After Lockup?
That's just you, man.
My sister loves the show.
Listen, I'm telling y'all watching the Godfather of Harlem, watching Power, the new Power that's out, man. Listen, when you married 21 years, and you got 3 kids, one of the best things you do is sit down and watch shows. There's some out there watching. They trying to act like they ain't. Y'all young boys though. Y'all young men still. I'm old.
I've seen 90 Day Fiancé. I will admit it. I have seen it. Not the recent one.
Look at the wisdom you're showing us how to be a pass rusher and a husband.
It's marriage advice too. It's not just on the field stuff.
I got y'all. Just call me Unc, OG Unc, man. I got y'all.
Yeah. All right, Eric, you got your last one here ready to go?
Yeah, real quick, man. 5 years from now, is Chuck Smith a defensive line coach in the NFL?
No. 5 years from now, Chuck Smith is retired from pass rush coaching. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to be a consultant, and I'm going to sit at home like this. Look, I'm going to have my clicker, and I'm going to get paid to evaluate. Yep. And I'll never say never but listen, man, it's hard for me to sit in a room for 7 hours a day, every day, doing sheets when my kids are having events.
Right.
Listen, being a coach is a honorable job.
It's tough.
But in being a coach, it is hard, man.
Yeah, man. That's hard.
Just like the Eagles coach, what's his name?
Sirianni? Nick
Sirianni.
Yeah.
They were like, all he does every second, all day, every minute, he does ball. Dude, it's hard for me to do that. And I always have that feeling of I want to raise my kids. Mm-hmm. So I would rather sacrifice, because I usually get about 3 job offers a year, usually 2 in college, and like 1 in the NFL, like an assistant or a pass rush coach, never the head coach, but I get a chance to be assistant coach. But I'd be sacrificing my kids. So like I said, it's an honorable job, but I'd rather my kids say my dad was there than my dad was never there, because every coach that I've ever met, and I'm serious, you know what they always say? Man, if it wasn't for my wife raising them kids.
Yep.
So I'm not interested to have my kids one day say dad wasn't there. So that's why I don't want to be a coach.
That's usually the first thing they say when they retire. What they want, they're going to do. I'm going to down with my kids. That's the first thing that they say.
Nah, I'm good.
I'm good. Because you bring the knowledge to the table. Mm-hmm. We see it all the time on Twitter. And honestly, man, I figured it was going to translate to you leading the line in the league.
Maybe if they call it the head coaching job, though.
Right. I know.
Hey, hold up. I will say this. I need to. Hey, if they don't get it right down at they don't get it right down at the AU Center, I'm saying I'll come down there. Terrence Mathis will be the head coach. Bob Whitfield do the O line, and I'll do the D line, and we will get it popping, and we will do like Dion and Eddie George. But if it ain't, that's just a joke. That's just HBCUs.
You heard it here first. Breaking news.
HBCU is the only place they're hiring former players, man. We gotta get down to the AU, man.
Well, man, this has been an awesome conversation, Chuck. Thank you so much for coming on. Obviously,
Appreciate
you're welcome. Welcome back anytime, guys. He is Chuck Smith. At Chuck Smith NFL, also at Falcoholic Chuck. At Falcoholic Chuck. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Chuck. Get it right. Yeah. Falcoholic Chuck. When I'm on this show, I'm Falcoholic Chuck.
All right, we got it. I'm gonna change the nameplate for you for the next show. Yeah.
Please do.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much, man, for coming on, and we'll hit you up and we'll get you back on at some point. All right, man.
Anytime, man.
Definitely.
All right, anytime.
Yeah, man. Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Chuck.
Yeah, guys, that was Chuck Smith, the Dr. Rush, the pass rushing specialist. Awesome to talk to him. What did you guys think of that?
He deserves to be the D-line.
Yeah, I don't even want to do the rest of the show.
Yeah, now we got to talk about normal.
Yeah, it's just like
things.
last week with like after Morton Anderson, we had to talk about like the roster. It's like, man, who gives a fuck?
I think what was interesting is even we're not doing anything physically right now. We're just sitting here, but like you could just tell by his voice and like his mentality, like he's got that pass rush mentality forever. Like I bet if we were playing outside right now, he'd want to hit somebody. Like it's amazing.
Yeah. It's really cool to be able to talk to guys that have been there, to get all these different perspectives. We had Morton last week from the kicker perspective. We now had the pass rush perspective, and now it's like, Evan, you're setting yourself up. Like now it's going to be like, who are you going to get next week?
Someone every week. Yeah.
Who are we getting next week? We got to keep the streak
I
going.
don't know.
Right?
Yeah,
No,
I'll find somebody. But we need to have him back later on. After to look at. I'm sure he'll be reviewing some of these younger defensive players after a couple weeks and have him come back on.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I think we might have a special Falcons guest next week. We'll see about getting Andrew Hirsch, former Falcoholic writer, former writer for the team, I believe, as well. I think he's going to be joining us next week. So got that to look forward to.
Evan, did you finally tell Arthur Blank when he was going to be allowed to come on? I mean, I know you have.
No, I told him we were booked up for a while, but
right. we'll work him in maybe if there's time.
I know you told him we'll get back to him at some point.
Right.
We have busy schedules to follow.
We do. Yeah. There's a waiting list now. You guys got to apply, and not a lot of people make the cut. So.
Yeah, Dave's running a tight ship out here.
He is. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for that interview. Obviously, we got some more show to go here, but in the meantime,
Evan, get us Tom Brady next week to talk about
I
the
will
week
try.
matchup.
No, don't do that to me. Yeah, don't do that.
He's gonna wear the ring.
Funny.
Yeah, he's going to wear the ring on purpose, man. He's going to be a jerk.
Yeah,
that guy is haunting my dreams, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm. If we could get Tom Brady on, I would do it for the ratings, certainly. But I wouldn't enjoy it. I'd probably enjoy it from like a professional standpoint, but from a fan standpoint, that would be a difficult one. But yeah, guys, before we kick off our next discussion here, I want to remind you. I know a lot of you already are, but you can donate to the show at the link in the show description if you're so inclined. Thank you so much to Jason and Corey for the great questions and the donations as well. Also, check out the Patreon page if you like what we're doing here. You want to support us on a monthly basis, want to get access to some exclusive perks, some exclusive content. The Patreon is patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. And, of course, we have to plug our post-game show, which is our biggest flagship show. That is on Sundays or whatever day the game is. This year it's mostly Sunday. And it'll be immediately following, like 10 minutes after. We'll break down the game, immediate reactions, and you get to see me sad or, hopefully happy for more than 4 games this year. But, we'll see. I know you guys seem to prefer when we lose. So prefer the show when we lose, not that you prefer the team to lose. But, all right, well, I would like to get everybody else involved. We had a very obviously Chuck Smith heavy opening, which was very exciting and definitely enjoyed that. I appreciate him spending 45 minutes with us. At first, he was like, I may only have like 20 minutes. We'll see. But he stuck around for 45 minutes.
They always say that.
They always stay longer. Yeah, they always
they're
do.
They're dipping their toe into the pool.
What I really loved
great.
about what Chuck Smith was like, not only great stories and like, great insight in the mentality, but like this is a guy who leads a balanced life.
Yeah.
And I feel like even post NFL, it's sometimes rare to see that. Like this is a guy who's got it all figured out, and it was really cool to hear that from him.
Yep. I totally agree. I think that's an underrated mindset for a lot of people. Everyone's so obsessed these days, and our culture, builds us this way, sort of makes us think this way, is that you just got to keep going. You got to keep getting ahead. And Chuck is at a point in his life where he's like, look, I'm good. Like, I have enough. I have a successful business. I had a great NFL career. Like, I don't have to keep pushing when I can stop where I am now, spend time with my family, do the things I want to do, and still professionally be satisfied. And I think that's a healthy way to live, and I approve of it 100%.
We don't even live a balanced life here at the Falcoholic. It's just all writing and research. I haven't seen my
24/7.
family in like 4 months.
Yeah, you can't leave that closet that you're in not until you finish that next article.
You're in Dave's upstairs closet, aren't you?
It's the boiler room.
Upstairs?
Yeah, the boiler room. Yeah, he let him upstairs. After that last article did those good numbers, he got to come upstairs for a change. But
Yeah, only for the weekend though.
yeah, only for the weekends, exactly. But yeah,
You guys keep telling these stories, and you're not going upstairs anymore.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're gonna have to. I get to go to the studio room sometimes for these shows, but that's it. So, but yeah, guys, let's talk some Philly Eagles. I want to get your guys' perspective as well. Yeah, Dave, I guess I'll go to you since I was making way for Chuck here to begin the show. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of weigh in on. We talked a lot about the Falcons' offensive line. A lot of new faces. How are you feeling about that unit in particular going into the Eagles game?
Yeah, I am concerned about it. I got what I wanted. Like when Jalen Mayfield was drafted, when they announced him, as a guard, and I saw that kind of lining up for him to be the starting left guard. That is what I wanted. I asked for this, right? So it's not the way I would have wanted it to happen with somebody getting injured, but like this is the line that I thought we would get. This is the line that I wanted. And so I guess I'd better be grateful for it. But yeah, of course I'm worried about the interior. I think this first couple of weeks and really beyond, but you've got Philadelphia and then Tampa Bay, some tough interiors. Mayfield really, making those first starts ever. Hennessy making some of his first starts ever. Those guys are right next to each other. If one of them has a bad game, if both of them have a bad game, you're talking about some big problems. And so that is something that I do worry about. Like I like Hennessy. I think Hennessy's going to be fine. I like Mayfield long term. I don't know about right this second being thrown into the fire there, but the line is definitely the thing that I'm most nervous about. Just given this matchup, I think the Philly secondary is good. It's not good enough necessarily to stop all these weapons. I don't think the Philly offense is good enough to, run roughshod over this Atlanta defense. So I worry about the offensive line kind of slowing this thing down. That is where I'm at. Yeah. And I would love nothing more than to see Hennessy and Mayfield, kick ass right out of the gate. Mayfield takes his job, never looks back, but kind of tough to expect that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a tough draw for the Falcons in week one. I think if they were to get Philly later in the season, we might feel a lot more confident about it, but we just haven't seen this offensive line play together. I mean, more than one snap, 2 snaps. That was all the starters really played over the course of the preseason. So we just don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know if I should be encouraged that Arthur Smith was like, no, they don't need to play, or if I should be terrified that he was like, I don't want anyone to see how bad this is. I don't know which one is the real Falcons truth here, but I agree with you. I mean, I guess I feel not that much concern about Matt Hennessy because it seemed like Hennessy just kind of took the job and just ran away with it. It was not particularly close. They named Hennessy the starter pretty much within the first few days of training camp. So that to me gives me a little bit of encouragement. But with left guard, it's would Jalen Mayfield even be starting if Josh Andrews hadn't been hurt? I don't know. Adnan, I'll go to you with this one. What do you think about left guard in particular? Jalen Mayfield the starter. Are you happy with that, or are you still secretly hoping that we bring someone in here at the end, or is it going to be Colby Gassette at some point, the guy we signed, claimed off waivers?
I'm terrified. I'm not sugarcoating it and saying, oh yeah, like it's gonna be amazing. I hope it is. Like, I hope I'm sitting here on Sunday and being like, man, I was wrong about left guard. Jalen Mayfield didn't give up a single pressure, and he was just like, yeah, he's the guy at that position. But no, I'm absolutely terrified. I think that's a glaring weak point in this offensive line, just like it has been the past few years. But I think it'll even be a downgrade this year as of right now, because James Carpenter last year was about league average. He was decently solid at left guard. And I can see where Chuck Smith was going with it, in saying that, we really, really have to establish the run. And I absolutely agree with that, because if you let Fletcher Cox pin his ears back and just start getting after the quarterback without having that established run game to lean on, I think the run and the play action, if the run game is going well, can be the great equalizer to this in neutralizing the Eagles' defensive line. But if you start getting one-dimensional and, you start tipping your hand and letting the Eagles know that, hey, we're going to start airing this out, whether that's because we're having to play from behind or because the run game isn't working at all, I think it could get pretty ugly on Sunday. And I feel like, and it's not like Mayfield is going to be lined up against Fletcher Cox one-on-one. They're going to be chipping him. They're going to give him help. But it's definitely not something that I'm feeling really, really good about right now. And I don't think that this is what we have right now. We didn't sign anyone. We claimed the guy from the Cleveland Browns off waivers. I don't think he's going to be much of an upgrade at the position.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's maybe like a serviceable reserve. Clearly, like something, but yeah, I mean,
if it gets really bad, they may dip their toes into free agency in the coming weeks. But I feel like if Mayfield handles his own, and I'm hoping that that's the scenario, then this will be what we have. So. Yeah, I am definitely worried about it this week, because I feel like that matchup could move the needle into the Eagles' favor. And that's something that you don't really see very much, where one defensive lineman against a left guard can do that, unless that defensive lineman is Aaron Donald on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, and it's not the Eagles' defensive line. That front four is the strength of that defense for sure. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, it's like Javon Hargrave they signed. I mean, he is a beast as well on the interior. What's that?
I forgot about Kerrigan.
Yeah, Ryan Kerrigan signed to be like a depth pass rusher for them, which is pretty ridiculous that he's going to be like a depth guy for them. They mentioned Chuck Smith mentioned Josh Sweat as well, Brandon Graham. It's a deep unit. Derek Barnett is there too. It's a deep unit. There's a lot of guys there. That front four is the strength of that defense, but behind them, the linebacking core is a disaster. I mean, it's Eric Wilson and Alex Singleton are their starting linebackers. Those guys are downgrades from what they had last year, which was also really bad. So there is a vulnerability there, and I think their cornerback group is okay. I think Darius Slay's obviously good. I think Steven Nelson's like an average starter. And Avonte Maddox, he was not good last year. They're moving him to the nickel where he probably should have played all along, so we'll see if that's a better fit for him. But their safeties, they did upgrade there with Anthony Harris in free agency. So, secondary, not a glaring weakness like it has been in years past, but the linebackers are a big problem. So, Eric, I was going to go to you with this one. How do you think the Falcons take advantage of that one sort of glaring weakness on the Eagles' defense?
Well, Chuck had a point as far as leaning on the run game, at least early. When you're dealing with a team like the Eagles, who, their strength is on defense, at least is their defensive line. You kind of want to get them off their rocker a little bit. These guys want to pin their ears back and get at the Matt Ryan. So I get what he's saying when it comes to that. However, my thing is, and he also made another point as far as slowly attacking that Eagles defense based on sort of like what the Titans scheme was last year. they didn't pass. They didn't utilize the deep ball frequently in Tennessee, but when they did, it worked.
It was deadly.
They were picking and choosing as far as when to attack the defense that way. When it comes to this team, to the Eagles, yeah, honestly, hindsight, you can look at it and say, like, yeah, let's get these guys in coverage and let Matt Ryan throw it 40 times a game. But like we've been pointing out for the past 2 years, when does that really work for the Falcons? Honestly, it looks great, but we can't count a whole lot of games where Matt's thrown 40, 45 passes and they won. To me, strategically, like Chuck said, I would kind of lean on the run game a little bit early and get that defense to kind of slow themselves down a little bit as far as getting at the Matt Ryan. And then I want to exploit those matchups on the back end. I'll tell you right now, just the tight ends alone, Kyle Pitts and Hayden Hurst, I don't think there's an athlete on that back end that can cover either one of those guys.
No, I mean, maybe Anthony Harris, but that's the only one.
Maybe.
And I don't know that he's the same since his injury, so
maybe. But if that's the case, then you're leaving Calvin Ridley with plenty of one-on-ones without safety help over the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know Slay is back there, but still, Slay is not going to win every matchup.
Slay's not like a shutdown number one. I would say he's like an above average number one.
He's a quality corner, but at the same time, I'm sure this Eagles defense wants to keep a safety over the top somewhere because of how effective Calvin Ridley can be intermediate and with the deep ball. So lean on the running game early. You may not be getting 4 or 5 yards of carry. I get it. You may be getting 3 yards of pop because this is a really good defensive line, and Fletcher Cox is going to make some plays. Let's just go ahead.
No, I 100% agree. I think a key is, like, normally you don't want to run on second and long, and I 100% think that you should not ever do that. But I think it could be part of the game plan this week to sort of force the Eagles into third and short so they can rely on kind of quick passing and dump offs to kind of keep the ball moving, because I think normally we would be in support of sort of being aggressive on 2nd and 10 if you don't get much on first down. But I think against the Eagles, where the pass rush is their strength, you sort of have to kind of keep third down to a manageable number, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 at most, in order to be able to get the ball out on time.
How I'm looking at it, lean on the run game a little bit and execute the short passing game. Mm-hmm. Let's get these linebackers and that defensive line to chase from sideline to sideline. Let's hit them with the run game, get these linebackers to chase. Second half, you start hitting that intermediate levels with Pitts and Hurst on the back end. Because at that point, your linebackers are they're gonna have to be covering a ton of ground already at that point.
Yeah.
So that's how I would do it. I wouldn't
run the Chip Kelly philosophy out here.
Just look,
basically, yeah. Like I would hit them, but the short pass just to get them off their rocker, because that's how they want to attack. They got dogs on a leash, and they want to let these guys go and get at the Matt Ryan. And the best way to do that is to slow them down. Let them slow themselves down with the run game.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I think you have, if Arthur Smith is as smart an offensive mind as we think he is, he's going to target their linebackers, especially in coverage, because it's a glaring weakness for them, and they've sort of built their defense around that weakness and trying to get pressure to prevent that from being a problem. But I think there's a non-zero chance, and I think it's actually a pretty good chance, that Kyle Pitts is the Falcons' leading receiver in this game, and he sort of has an explosive start to his season because the matchup is set up for him to do so.
Right, but it's going to be methodically. It's going to be slow. It's going to be like, they're not going to bore us, but at the same time, they're pretty much going to be setting some stuff up in the second half. I think that is when you're going to see the passing game kind of blossom a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, like, to me, like the play the Falcons ran to Kyle Pitts against the Browns, it's like a little dump off to him.
That's all I need.
And he's just on a crosser in man coverage against a linebacker. And no offense to Eric Wilson, well, some offense to Eric Wilson and Alex Singleton, they have no chance of keeping up with Kyle Pitts on that crosser.
Let's line Hurst up as an H-back.
Yeah.
Get some quick dump offs just to get the ball in his hands in the perimeter. Same thing with Cordero Patterson. I'll be using a lot of Cordero Patterson in this game as well.
Oh yeah. And that's a good thing to think of too. And I want to go to Evan here because we haven't heard from Evan much. How do you think they might sort of attack that weakness, Evan? In your opinion, do you think it will be a heavy dose of Kyle Pitts, in his first NFL game, or will it be to someone like maybe Cordarrelle Patterson out of the backfield?
I think it'd be crazy not to make it Pitts, but also you can do what Eric was saying. Use Cordarrelle Patterson. Hayden Hurst, I like the idea of him being more of like an H-back role. I kind of found it odd in the initial depth chart.
Smith commented on it. Yeah.
Oh, he commented on it?
Yeah, he said
Arthur Smith commented.
Yeah. Arthur Smith claimed that it was because they were listing the team in 12 personnel, so there wasn't space for a fullback. Okay. But I don't know if I believe him.
He had ideas of him kind of doing a bunch of different things. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I don't think you have to make Calvin Ridley the focus, even though he's wide receiver 1. Also, Russell Gage isn't awful. Like, I think he could play a big role in this game. So we'll see. But, I think if you're looking primarily at the matchup, Kyle Pitts, should feast. But it is his first ever, regular season game. So,
I agree.
That would be a good one to start on.
Yeah, and I think... to me, I agree with you on Russell Gage that Avonte Maddox is definitely the weak link in the cornerback group. So target Russell Gage in the slot whenever they don't have two tight ends on the field. I think that's a favorable matchup as well for the Falcons.
Make them cover Pitts.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would do. Look, it's week 1. Just unleash him. You've been hiding him all this time for a reason, right? Unleash him.
Make him cover Hurst. I would if he's going to be in that slot. I'm not even going to allow him to see a whole lot of Zacchaeus or Gage. That's what they want. That's what they want. Maddox is better in the slot against the smaller receivers. So okay, I'm going to make you cover a 6'6", 240-pound tight end.
Yeah, I mean, I would force as many linebackers onto the field for the Eagles as possible, make them play base, because the linebackers are a lot worse than the corners. So if you can force them into playing that. Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Yeah.
I was just going to say, the thing with Pitts is Tony Gonzalez, sure, I think he praises guys plenty, but him talking about Pitts being uncoverable, I think at every opportunity you're trying to test that out and just see how uncoverable he is.
Yeah.
So
got to try it at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Just get Pitts any matchup you can. And yeah, I agree with you guys. The fewer times we see a slot receiver on the field at the expense of a tight end, I think the better in this one.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's probably why Russell Gage is probably this is going to be his last year with the team, because I have a hard time seeing them paying a slot receiver a lot of money to be here. And it's not because he's not good, just because I think the slot receiver will sort of be de-emphasized in this offense because of the way they want to build things. But they did keep Austin Trammell on the practice squad, so keep an eye on that for our future slot receiver, maybe. My son, Austin Trammell here. But let's spend some time talking about the Falcons defense. It's usually a dark topic, but hope springs eternal this early in the season, so maybe there's a chance the Falcons defense could be okay, right? Before we do that, just another time to plug, guys. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us tonight. Almost to the regular season here. If you haven't already, check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live, and check out the community Discord server as well if you like to chat Falcons with your fellow fans. The link to that's in the show description on YouTube. That has started to fill up quite a bit over the past few months. And there is a game day channel in there for everyone who wants to do live game day chat. That's a lot of fun. So check that out if you're interested in taking part in that. But, Evan, I'll go to you first on this. What is... this is our first chance really to see Dean Pease in action. So, what are you hoping to see from the Falcons defense against the Eagles in week 1? Just, it can be a generic take or a specific take, whatever you sort of feel like.
I mean, I think the generic take is sacks, a lot of pressure, just stuff we're not used to seeing. Specifically, I during preseason, how we all focus on a couple guys. One of the guys I really focused on that I liked what I saw, and apparently it paid off for him, was Jonathan Bullard on the defensive line. He's got, technically, according to the week 1 starting depth chart, he's a starter. So I'm kind of excited to see, more of him. We saw him limited, and he made some splash plays. I think he had 1 or 2 sacks during the preseason. But he was like, anytime they got pressure early, he was usually involved. So that'll be exciting. I want to see the starting safeties finally together, Eric Harris and Harmon, because we haven't seen them on the field together. I believe Harmon was in a little bit of action last week, but Eric Harris hasn't played at all. So that'll be interesting to see like both starting safeties out there.
Yeah. That's the first that we've seen because Eric Harris didn't play at all against the Browns. We got totally
Harmon played a little bit,
like
not
few,
like any,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is very interesting. I agree. I want to see what the safety rotation looks like.
And I'm not sure because obviously I'm not them, but I think they probably came away more impressed with our depth at safety. I think Jalen Hawkins and Richie Grant in the action they saw during preseason looked great. I think it's promising going forward considering how young both players are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, looking at how the Falcons defense matches up, it's really kind of a wild card how the Eagles will be. We don't know how good Devonta Smith will be. That will be obviously one of the main, sort of turning points in this game. Can Devonta Smith be the weapon that the Eagles have lacked at wide receiver for the past several years? Jalen Reagor did not pan out the way they wanted. He was not.
Yeah, and they took him over Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. And, my dynasty team is certainly hoping that Jalen Reagor eventually turns into something. But, that is, they're hoping obviously for a lot from Devonta Smith. I'm sure they're hoping for something from Jalen Reagor, but the big weapon on that offense is the tight ends. They're kind of similar to the Falcons in that way, right? They have Zach Ertz, they have Dallas Goedert, a very potent two tight end attack. So, Adnan, I'll go to you with this one. How do you think the Falcons are going to match up in terms of coverage against this Eagles passing game?
I definitely think that Dean Pease will try to speed up the clock against Jalen Hurts because Jalen Hurts is someone who we've seen last year. He had his moments, definitely after taking over for Carson Wentz, but he also had some moments where he clearly looked like a rookie and looked like someone who, for whom the moment was, slightly too big. So I definitely think I like that we're going up against Hurts right away, early on in the season. I don't think that, he's really proven quite yet. And, this is just something where I feel like the pressure that Dean Pease brings to try and speed things up for him, that could force him into a few mistakes because, Hurts, this is still someone who it's probably still in his mind how last season he was pulled. He was benched. His completion percentage wasn't really that high. His pure passing numbers, his rushing numbers were great, but his passing numbers weren't really all there. So, I definitely think that that's something where you can kind of take advantage of it mentally in going up against someone so young and still a little bit raw in his NFL career. Definitely not something you'll be able to do very much of next week against Tom Brady, who's the exact opposite of all of that.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I definitely think that Dean Pease he's gonna be blitz happy all season. But I think he may bring the heat a little more in this game than what we'll see in future games against non-young quarterbacks.
Yeah, and Dave, I was going to go to you with this one. Jalen Hurts is known more for his rushing ability, one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the NFL last year, even in only a few game sample size. How do you think, or how would you sort of try to limit his ability to run the ball? Because that was really where he had the most success, when he could kind of get out of the pocket and use his legs. Would you take a blitz-heavy approach, or would you use more spies and try to force him to throw the ball?
I would just have Grady Jarrett sit on him.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, he can just sit on him.
Mm-hmm.
No, I would think about having a spy. I think the thing with Hurts is, in my mind, like I actually like Jalen Hurts. I think he can be a good NFL quarterback, but I do think his instinct, especially against a blitz-happy defense, is going to be to take off. And I think if you're going to send the house every time out to try to force him into making a bad throw, that's going to work out for you occasionally. It might even work out for you enough to win the game, but he's also going to just take off a lot because he's confident in his legs, and he should be. He's a very good scrambling quarterback. I can't tweet about him in a funny way like I can with Matt Ryan because he's actually really good at it.
Yeah.
So to me, you want to have somebody who's got eyes on him pretty much at all times, because the very last thing you want to do is be so aggressive that you're giving Hurts, a chance to rip off 15, 20, 30-yard runs and keep this thing moving. I don't think the Eagles offense, as much as I like some of their playmakers, is good enough to win this game on their own, unless you just can't account for Hurts taking off and running. So I would be a little bit cautious about that. And I would save the nonstop endless blitzing for Tom Brady, who is 44 years old and still hasn't had a cup of coffee recently. So that's how I would play it. We'll see how it goes. Maybe they'll just get after him. He'll get rattled and he won't take off. But I very much doubt that.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to take off. He's going to take off a lot. So if they're going to blitz him, and I don't think blitzing him is a bad idea necessarily, but if they're going to blitz him, they need to have somebody there in case he survives the blitz, because otherwise he's going to take off and run.
I feel like, and I'm not saying just go zero blitz on him every time. I like the idea of bringing a fifth man and also leaving a Deion Jones as a spy, just because Deion Jones has the foot speed to keep up. So even if Jalen Hurts kind of runs away from it, you still have Deion Jones right there closing at the angle.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think Deion Jones could be a really good sort of running quarterback eraser because he is faster than just about every quarterback. I mean, if not all quarterbacks, even guys like Justin Fields and Trey Lance. Deion Jones reportedly ran into the high 4.3s at his pro day. So I like that strategy. I think that could be good. Eric, how would you sort of try to neutralize Jalen Hurts? Would you like to blitz as well, or are you sitting back in zone and trying to kind of contain and let him make mistakes as a passer? Eric? Did we lose Eric? Wait.
Excuse me, I've been on.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
I'm gonna give him a mixed bag. I'm gonna make him be a traditional quarterback passer, which he's probably not at that particular point in his development yet. But I'm also gonna throw some bodies at him, man. The one thing that I do feel comfortable about with this defense going up against Jalen Hurts is the athleticism at linebacker in case he does, pulls the ball down and takes off. Having Deion Jones, having Oluokun, having even Michael Walker. That's a nice trio of athletic linebackers that I believe, if they need to chase him down, they'll be able to get after him. The one thing about Jalen Hurts, the guy is he's going to bring it for 4 quarters. He doesn't care what the score is. He doesn't care what the surrounding circumstances are. The guy's going to play football. And if his team wins at the end of the day, his team wins at the end of the day. Nothing gets to him. So blitzing may be one thing to try to throw him off his mental rocker, but I'm telling you, this guy is he's a gamer. Yeah. Nothing gets to him mentally. Nothing throws him off. When he's concentrated, he's concentrated. But I'm just not going to allow him to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not going to allow him to anticipate a blitz, and I'm not going to allow him to sit back and think that we're not coming. He's just going to have to, for 4 quarters, he's just going to have to wonder what the hell we're going to do. And this is going to have to be a game where discipline is going to matter a lot, because not only Hurts, Miles Sanders is a dangerous receiver out of the backfield. We got to keep that in mind. And you mentioned Zach Ertz, you mentioned Dallas Goedert. Those are nice 2 safety valves right there. Also, keep in mind, they haven't been utilizing him a whole lot, but they got some size on the perimeter. A guy like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside,
right,
who's 6'6" with the longest arms I've ever seen in my life. I'm pretty sure they're going to try to get some jump balls up to him. So again, discipline is what's going to matter to this defense. And if they're able to do that, I think they'll be able to squeeze out a win here. They're only 3.5-point favorites.
No, it's not much. Yeah, I mean, it's a closer game than I think people are thinking. It really just depends. Is Devontae Smith sort of ready to be the number one target right now? Is Jalen Reagor ready to do something, anything? Can JJ Arcega-Whiteside do something, anything? Quez Watkins, what do they have in him as sort of their third receiver? How healthy is the offensive line? Because Brandon Brooks is limited. So
not to mention they got a rookie head coach they're going up against as well. Where's Sirianni in this? Like, is he? We all remember his press conference, his introductory press conference. It wasn't great. It didn't get his tenure off to the best start. So, I'm going in this game as well, man. Like, hey, which rookie head coach is going to make the first mistake?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
That might stop right there.
Yeah, and
and it seems like Sirianni, yeah.
I agree. And like honestly, the other thing with the Eagles is that the depth at corner is non-existent. It's Zech McPherson is their backup cornerback if any of their starters miss time.
The depth is not it's bad, but that's I guess when you have a too deep defensive line, you can cover certain things like that.
Right. So that's what they're hoping for, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's what they're hoping for.
That's what they're hoping for. But yeah, guys, any final Eagles takes before we wrap it up tonight?
Only thing I'd say is, as we get closer to this matchup, I had kind of penciled in the Eagles as one of the easier games on the schedule. And, just seeing the talent on hand and looking at some of the matchups makes me realize, there really aren't many, if any, easy games on the slate this year. And I think that's really going to test the mettle of this Falcons team, right? Like Terry Fontenot has been adamant, at least publicly, that this is a team that is not rebuilding. They are contending. And so if you're gonna show it, there's no cupcake games for you to, kind of roll over here. They're going to have to earn it. And I think this is really a great initial test for them against a team that's kind of figuring it out just like they are and is plenty talented enough. So if they win this one, especially if they win comfortably, I'm going to be feeling pretty good.
I want to poll everybody real quick. What's more likely to happen? 100 yards rushing game by this offense or the defense getting 5+ sacks?
100-yard rushing
I think
game.
The defense.
No, I think a 100-yard rushing game is much better. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're
like
both kind
player?
of unlikely.
Like as a team, they get 100 rushing yards.
Okay. As a team getting 100 rushing.
Oh, as a team?
Yeah.
I'll go with the team 100 yards just because Arthur Smith. I know he had Derrick Henry, but he drew up a really good running offense.
Well, that's the thing. Like people don't realize how handicapped the Falcons' rushing attack was by Dirk Cutter. I mean, that was the least inspired rushing attack I think I've seen in many years. I mean, it was lifeless. I mean, there was nothing to it. It was just the most boring vanilla rushing attack you could draw up, and even changing that, I think will be a little bit different. Just that.
For a second, for some reason, I thought the question was Mike Davis getting 100 yards himself.
Yeah, that might not happen. That would be tough to see.
The team putting up 100 rushing yards, or the defense getting 5 sacks.
I think, and I'm rooting for the scenario where the team employs a nice running back by committee this season, where Cordero Patterson's in there on passing downs, Wayne Gallman is in there for short yardage work, and Mike Davis is in there for the baseline first and second downs in between the 20s.
Mike Davis is a great receiver too.
He is, but he's no Cordero Patterson at receiving.
No,
Dave,
but
Dave, you went with the sacks?
I did. I think that this is one of those games where, because of who Hurts is, and I think if you can legitimately rattle him, they could get 5 sacks. I do think that. I think they'll pay for it if they're super aggressive at times, but I think they could sack Jalen Hurts 5 times. And I think, in my mind, just given how aggressive I do expect the game plan to be, that's more likely than 100 yards rushing as a team.
Interesting.
Evan, you're with the rushing yards?
No, yes, because I thought it was the if it was Mike Davis, I was with the defensive sacks. But yeah, I just think that's more likely, and I mean it's possible that I don't know, they do some trick play that Patterson collects 40 yards on the rush or something, and that, really helps that case. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I do want to. I'm going to read your donations later. Don't worry. But yeah, we'll wrap it up with these real quick before we get to our score predictions as the final note. So think of your score predictions, folks, before you got a few seconds here. But Corey Carter with the $5. Thank you again, Corey. We appreciate that. He says, I think Week 1 is maybe the most important regular season game because it can build momentum for the season. It's definitely important. I think it's maybe a little bit overrated in general just because, you look at the Falcons 2016 slow start. It really matters, I think, more how you finish, but we've also seen how a very poor start can kind of ruin your whole season, which is what the Falcons have experienced each of the last several years. So I would like them to start strong, again, that would be nice if we could see that. And then finally from Guy Fieri, a.k.a. Solaire with the $3. Thank you, brother. He says, guys, got to ask the really hard questions here, so get ready. How many games until draft takes? Week 7 in 2019, Week 2 in 2020. He's giving it until Week 13 this year. Some of you guys may be thinking playoffs with galaxy brain math like last year. Yeah, I mean, I think...
You might as well at me with that one, Solaire. Like, I know that one is directed right at me.
Yep.
You sure? I was on the draft week 2.
No, he was in support of your draft after Week 2, Eric. I think he was throwing shade at us for pretending they could make the playoffs, after like Week 7 or Week 10 or whatever it was. Yeah,
and was holding out playoff hopes after.
We were like what 2 and 6, and I was thinking up scenarios.
Well, then
the worst part about that was like week after week we had to write that they were not out of the playoffs, and like I knew they were dead in my heart.
There was
that
rumor where it
and
was
like people
they
get
may
so
add
mad. You can't be writing about the playoffs, but they weren't dead. They weren't dead.
You remember they were like, oh, they might add an extra team.
That's what gave me that hope. That's what I was clinging on. Because at one point we were just a half game back of that extra playoff, and I'm like, we played Taysom Hill twice. Like, there's no way we're losing to Taysom Hill.
He hasn't thrown a touchdown since high school.
They were like 2 and 6, and Adnan came on here one show, and he was just popping off scenarios. I'm like, dude, you're done.
It was the biggest mental gymnastics I've ever done in my life.
Yep. Yeah. Oof. Yeah, I agree with you there. That's yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, I think it'll be like in the teens probably.
Hopefully it's all season. Like, can we at least once just have like
I think
a nice like playoff run where we're alive nice. Toward the end
I think we'll start talking about the draft, in the later part of the season, just because there will be interesting prospects and things like that. But I don't know if we'll be like full on we're out of the playoffs draft takes mode at any point this season. But I think the draft takes will start in like week 14, 15-ish. But it might not be because we're eliminated. It might just be because we're interested in the draft.
And I will say, I think it's incredibly important, even more so this year than like before, that the team gets off to a good start. Week 1, like Dave mentioned, that the Eagles should be one of the easier teams on your schedule. You drop this game against Philadelphia, you're 0-1. The rest of the season, you have 6 home games left and 9 road games, and then that 1 London game. So you're already completely on the back foot. Also, this team literally hasn't been above 500 since 2017. Yeah. Like for the last 3 years, they have at no point been above 500.
Yep.
They've had a 2-9 record in September over the last 3 years combined, a 6-17 record in September and October. So I feel like just as a mental hurdle, they need to clear the mental hurdle of getting above 500, getting off to a good start and not completely falling behind, because there's plenty of players on this team that for the past 3 years, that's all they've known. And, some of them since being drafted by the Falcons, all they've known is, all right, we're so far in the hole that we're not even playing competitive football in November. So I think this season it's incredibly important to, win this game that's one of the more winnable games on your schedule against Philadelphia, because you get Tampa Bay next week. I'm not picking us to win in Tampa. You're already staring down the barrel of an 0-2 record at that point. And, we saw how quickly it can snowball just from last year, that 0-2, how quickly it can possibly go down to, maybe an 0-5, and then all of a sudden, all right, now you're out of it again. Now the fan base has again lost interest. You're not going to see that Mercedes-Benz Stadium even close to like half full if you're getting off to that kind of a start. So I think just for this team's culture under a new head coaching regime, and just for the mental sake of these players and the fan base, you cannot get off to a 1-3 start or a 1-4 start or an 0-5 start the way we've been seeing the past 3 years.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think they need to win this game if we want to have a lot of hope this year. Obviously, if they drop this game, it's not like the end of the world or anything. But like, if you can't beat the Eagles, we're probably like needing to pump the brakes on things. Like, okay, like, Terry Fontenot was, maybe a little bit aggressive saying they were really going to be competitive. Like, I wasn't sure I believed it, but if they lose to the Eagles at home in week 1, that's not exactly showing a lot that you'd want to see, right off the bat. There will still be time for them to turn things around, but they really need to beat the Eagles. Like, they just need to do it. So, I think that's where I am. But speaking of beating the Eagles, what are your guys' predictions? Dave, I'll go to you first. What is your score prediction for this opening game?
I got Falcons 27, Eagles 21. I do think they'll win. I am, as I think we've all said, I'm less certain about this team in so many ways than I have been in a long time, with a new coaching staff, seeing no starters all preseason pretty much. But I just think that they are the better team than the Eagles right now, and I think they will win this one at home. So I really, really hope they win this one at home, because if they start 0-2, we're starting that draft talk, and I am not ready for that.
Yeah. I agree. So I'm hopeful as well. I'll go to Evan next. Evan, what's your score prediction?
24-16. I'm going to say Calvin Ridley scores twice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Calvin Ridley is responsible for 14 of the 16 of the 20 points. All right. Big Calvin Ridley fantasy owner, huh?
No, actually, but I actually have a lot of shares of Mike Davis, so odd on speaking the truth about the possible committee made me nervous. But
yeah, that's a scary one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mike Davis fantasy owners. I'm not seeing it this season.
well, he wasn't that expensive in drafts for most people. So.
Was he not? He was like a 4th rounder in my league.
I got him a little bit later in most of my leagues. I think people were afraid of the committee, so I think I got him in like the 6th or 7th league at one point. And I was like, okay, that's reasonable. Like, that's like RB 4 or 5 sort of timeline. So I'm okay with that. But enough of the fantasy takes for now. Okay, Eric, you next. What's your score prediction?
I say 26-20. I think the difference in this game will be the defense actually creating some turnovers.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I think they get a couple second half turnovers, and you start to see a little change in the whole regime, because normally we get these turnovers and they normally don't make anything out of those turnovers. But I think with this regime, you kind of see that change a little bit.
Yep. Yeah.
You calling a defensive touchdown?
Ooh.
Let's
When's
get
the last
spicy
time we've
here.
had one of those?
Spicy, yeah.
The last one we had was Raiders, right?
Yeah.
Deion's pick 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think they just get a couple well-timed second half turnovers, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
When's the last time we've had a well-timed turnover?
We'll take that. We'll take it.
All right. That leaves just me, I believe. So I will also go with the Falcons here. We'll say 24-20 Falcons. And I think it will be the Falcons sort of pulling away. And the Eagles do score late to make it closer, but I think the Falcons do still hold on and win the game there.
Kevin, I don't appreciate that. First you leave me out of the tweet, and now you completely skip over me in the predictions.
Oh wow! I thought you were the no. You know what? Now because you said that, now I'm not going to call it. Go ahead with your prediction.
Wow!
I actually said that to make sure. To make sure that everyone got to predict. So I knew someone would say something.
He's just going to say Matt Ryan's going to have a bad game. We don't need to hear this.
I know, yeah, that's why I skipped you. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Josh Rosen comes in the second half and saves the day.
Yes. Oh man.
And then the fan base turns to the Josh Rosen era. No, into all seriousness, the Braves are holding off the Phillies in the NL East. In baseball, the Hawks ended the process. In basketball, I think the Falcons continue the trend of Atlanta owning Philadelphia in sports in the year 2021. I was also going to say 24-20, but now I'll just revise it to 27-20.
Okay, I like it. It's a little spicier, a little more pro Atlanta. I think that's fair. So, yeah, the Falcons will be wearing white at home for the first time that I can remember, like ever.
They did against Denver.
Against Denver.
Oh, really? Yeah. When was that last year? Or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah, wasn't that one of our 4 wins?
Yeah.
Or did we lose that game?
No, that was the game. That was the game that
I just remember Terrell going against Judy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the game
that
raised your playoff hopes. You were on a cloud nine at that point, man. After that Denver.
Yeah. Yeah.
That may have been our last win, to be honest, right?
It may have been. I don't know. But
I don't think we won a game after that.
It's because they weren't white at home. Yeah.
They beat the Raiders. They beat the Raiders after that, right? A couple weeks later.
Maybe.
I know my hopes were completely crushed after we lost to the Saints the first time. Yeah. The second time was just icing on the cake.
They beat the Raiders. You couldn't tell Adnan anything. He was like, 2 in a row?
Oh, yeah.
I've never felt this happy.
Had we beaten Taysom the first time, then the Raiders, then it's like, all right, we're getting Taysom again next week.
Yeah, we got this.
I'm looking at 3 in a row. I was talking myself into, maybe we can beat Tampa later on too. We'll play
maybe.
them tough.
Oh yeah, don't even bring that game. The one where they had it was a 21-3 lead or something like that at halftime.
Yeah, I was rooting for us to lose that game at that point. I was looking at the draft.
I think we all knew it was going to happen. I think we were like, oh, the Falcons are up, but not for long.
But it's funny. I look back at that now and Taysom Hill. Of course, they were going to lose to Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
that was obvious. I don't know how year after year we fool ourselves into thinking things like, man, they can beat Taysom Hill. It just doesn't happen.
It's not really. It's not really the times that they've lost. It's how they've lost these games.
It's always the
consistent.
method. Yeah,
it's always consistent.
The method behind it. It's never like, oh man, they played that team hard for 4 quarters and they just came up short. No, they lost the game because they actually scored a touchdown when they wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
That just became built into the culture of a Dan Quinn football team over the years, and then before that, a Mike Smith football team. And when you string those two together, you just have a whole era of a team just choking.
They lost the game because they were afraid to recover an onside kick.
We're not going to rehash this. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here.
Look, we'll talk about this after, guys, in the after party.
Yes, we've got 17 games to complain about this team. Okay, let's go to week 1 with at least some level of positivity. Okay, we're not going to rehash the Dallas game. We'll save that for an equally infuriating moment in the regular season this year.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what they have in store for us this season.
Oh,
maybe it'll be different this time.
That's what we always say.
I need 40 points in that game.
Yeah. Well,
against Dallas? Oh, you already know we're getting shut out in that game.
That would be pretty typical.
It's going to be like 30-0.
Yep. That would be pretty typical. So, all right, guys.
I'm logging off.
Yep, it's time to go. Yeah. Anyway, guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in. Do check out, like I said, the Patreon page, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check all that stuff out. Make sure to follow our co-hosts this evening. First of all, we have Dave Choate at the Falcoholic himself. Dave, anything you're working on you'd like to plug?
Just all the great work you guys are doing. I think it's been a great off season considering how long it's been, and really excited to see everybody's coverage, continue to put awesome guests on the show here. And make sure you're following everybody and keep up with our content.
Absolutely, guys. Check that out for sure, including all of our content. It is good stuff, in my opinion, at least. And Dave's opinion, but, he's contractually obligated because he's the one paying us. So also with us tonight, we have Evan Birchfield, Director of Guest Personnel. He is at Evan Birchfield. Evan, anything you're working on you'd like to plug?
Just go to falcoholic.com for everything. And, stay tuned to the show every week. We'll be going every week. We got a bunch of different podcasts, but the post-game podcast with me and DW, the Falcoholic live post-game, and then, our continuous every Wednesday night. And thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Also with us tonight, we have Adnan Ikic. He is at Say Which Way on the Twitters. Adnan, anything that you're working on you'd like to plug?
A new series. Our series is restarting, weekly series. I can't even speak. I'm taking over the season series article, which is going to be running every Saturday, and the Falcons, what if the Falcons win/lose article is also gonna get published Saturday. And I'm just trying to keep up that work. I'm trying to keep my seat up in the upstairs penthouse. So I'm not trying to go back down to the boiler room where Kevin is.
Be respectful of your elders, then, sir.
Yep.
That's all.
Never.
Finally, we have with us Eric Robinson. He is at _Eric_Robinson. Eric, anything you're working on you'd like to let the people know about?
Yeah, we got that game preview coming out later this week, so be on the lookout for that. And everything Falcons related, man. Like I always say, check out the Falcoholic. That's the one-stop shop.
One-stop shop,
and
guys.
ESPN.
Yeah, check out ESPN. Yeah, to see Eric's handiwork. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Big Time over here. At least he's able to make time for us, here on our little show now. Yeah.
4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. ESPN 2 every Friday.
Yep.
Look at that plug.
Look at that plug. What a company man. What a company man.
Might as well.
Since we're here, yep. But yeah, appreciate Eric coming on tonight. Appreciate everyone.
Yeah,
I'm Kevin
ESPN's
Knight.
ratings are going to jump after that.
I know,
plug.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get them all, 90 people that are still watching for that plug are going to be laser focused on ESPN2 at this point. Yeah, guys, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin. Look for all my stuff coming out. Over the next few days, I'll start doing video breakdowns and stuff like that again, starting next week, based on the game or interesting things that happen in the game. So look for those to be showing up on the channel once again. But yeah, until Sunday afternoon, guys, make sure to follow along on Twitter with all of us. You can jump into the Discord server here, the link to which is right below me there, but it's also in the show description. If you want to have live game day chat, there's also a live game day thread on thefalcoholic.com, and you can also, of course, keep up with the site for all the latest injury news, for all the latest updates going up to the game itself. So check all that out, guys. And until Sunday afternoon, for myself, for Eric, Adnan, Evan, and Dave, and once again, thanks to Chuck Smith for joining us earlier in the show. We will talk to you guys at the post game. Hopefully, fingers crossed, starting the season off with a victory, getting above 500 for the first time in 3 years or whatever it's been. So until then, guys, have a great night. Enjoy the first game of football tomorrow, where it's really hard to figure out who to root for because I don't like Dallas Cowboys and I can't root for a division rival. So really just kind of going into the game. I guess I do hate the Cowboys more, but it's tough.
But what about our chances of winning the division? They'll be better if Tampa loses.
I don't think they'll be better enough though. I think we should probably just write that one off, but we'll see. But
maybe they'll tie and both lose.
Hey, there you go. Then everybody else wins. Exactly.
Yeah, I will say it is very Falcons that the Bucs now get 10 days of rest between that Cowboys game and our Week 2 match.
Yes, that is perfectly Falcons. This whole season schedule really is designed to just screw over the Falcons in every conceivable way.
End the show. Thanks, man.
Yep, exactly. End it with more negativity, but the positivity is we got real football on Sunday. We'll see you guys after that game right back here on the Falcoholic Live. Enjoy the first game of football tomorrow, folks, and we'll see you on Sunday. Have a great night.